VinGPT.com.
Welcome back, investors. Welcome to a new YouTube video. So this week actually we will not be speaking about a specific company, but we will be speaking about the latest top 100 global brand that has come out 2 days ago. So, and for those who follow me or have done my trainings, you know that I like to invest into let's say global brands, specifically if I can buy them cheap. And I've been following for more than 10 years Interbrand, which is a brand, so let's say marketing, brand management and monitoring agency. And they do publish around autumn period always the top 100 of the best global brands. And so they published it 2 days ago, and I want to make sure that you have the latest updates from the Interbrand report. So first things first, as always, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to hit the notification button or bell so that you get informed when we publish a new video. And thanks already for those who have been subscribing to our channel. Alright, so first, I have decided to structure the video into 3 parts. So the first is just to give you an update, what is the latest top 100. Then we're going to have a look in a very interesting graph that is part of the Interbrand report, where they are showing the top 100 financial performance versus the market average. So stay tuned for seeing that graph, and then also sharing my insights about how I look at, let's say, the strategic part of brands as well, and how that is also integrated into VinGPT. So first things first, so what is interesting in this report is that actually it's now 25 years that they have been doing this, and they kind of provided a summary as an introduction to the latest Interbrand report, where they were mentioning that in fact they have been featuring 185 brands. And remember that one brand is not necessarily one company. I mean, if you take companies like LVMH, so Louis Vuitton, Moët & Hennessy, or Nestle, they may have 2 or 3 brands in the top 100 as well. But all in all, so there have been 185 brands that have been featured over the last 25 years in the top 100. What is interesting is that rough cut 40%, so 85 brands have disappeared from the top 100, and including some very well-known brands, at least that, I'm a little bit older, that I knew, like Kodak, Heinz, Nokia for mobile phones before they were, let's say, substituted by smartphones, and America Online as well, related to, let's say, internet. I would say a generation of internet before the generation of internet that we have today. Interesting as well is that there were 35 brands that remained in the top 100 for the last 25 years, and only 2, and that's pretty remarkable for those 2 companies, only Microsoft and Coca-Cola were able to stay in the top 10 actually for the last 25 years, and this is in a consecutive way. So I think that is very remarkable of the capability of management, but also the board of directors and shareholders to take the right decisions to keep those 2 companies in the top 10 for the last 25 consecutive years. That's, I think, a very, very strong mode that those companies have. So let's go into the number 1 to number 25 position. So first of all, I've tried to put you can see it for yourself. You can also go on interbrand.com and download the report. But I just wanted to highlight who are the losers. So which companies have had their brand actually value being so declining. So Apple, you see that's, I think it's one of the first times that I do see, even though Apple has retained the number 1 position, it's one of the first times I see that Apple has lost actually a little bit of brand value, so minus 3% according to Interbrand. You see that Mercedes, they actually have lost 1 position. They were number 7 last year, they are now number 8. Tesla has lost 9% on their brand value, but their position remains number 12. Nike has lost 5 positions, and they have lost 5% on the brand value. I'm surprised, I need to be very honest, to see that Cisco, for example, is growing, but okay, that's my personal opinion. And Disney has been losing 3 positions, so they are now 16, and they were 13th last year, if I remember well. So those are a little bit, I'll call them in the top 25, the losers, the negative movers, in fact. In terms of winners, Instagram, so Meta Holdings has, so they also have a couple of brands. I think you see here they have On position 21, they have Facebook, and on position 15, they have Instagram. So Instagram is a more valuable brand than Facebook, according to Interbrand. So the brand value has increased by 15%, and they won actually one position. And Hermes, so the luxury group, doesn't surprise me. So because I mean, some of you know that I like to invest into luxury groups, and currently I do have LVMH and Kering, but not Hermes, because for me it's too expensive. But it doesn't surprise me that Interbrand is actually showing that Hermes has gained in terms of brand value, and they actually won one position. They were 23 last year, and they are now 22 actually. Right, if we look at the top 26 to 50 ranks, so there we have two losers. One that does not surprise me at all, which is Intel Corporation. I mean, the company has a lot of, let's say, issues. I actually published a video specifically on Intel a couple of months ago, if not a year ago. And it doesn't surprise me that the brand Intel is considered less attractive by brand marketing agencies like Interbrand. So they actually lost 30% on the brand value. They have lost 13 positions, so they were 24 last year, and they're now, so they actually came out of the top first 25, and they are now ranked 37 according to Interbrand. Gucci, which is one of the companies that I do have in my portfolio, actually it's Kering Group. So Gucci has lost 7 positions. So you see that they have lost also 10% on the absolute brand value. And then one, which is not a surprise probably for most of you, is that Nvidia has actually integrated the top 100 and has immediately moved into the position 36. So I mean, that's a very, very big mover, and it doesn't surprise me because I mean, everybody's speaking about Nvidia, the financial markets are speaking about it, etc. So I believe that, okay, it makes sense. I can understand it. I can already make a remark. One of the companies that I was expecting to integrate the top 100 this year was actually, so in terms of brands, not company, is ChatGPT. Because ChatGPT, according to August 2024 figures, they have 200 million active users per month. So I think that everybody is using ChatGPT. And when I ask, I mean, you know that I teach at university as well and in the French business school, and I was expecting also to see ChatGPT in the top 100. It's not there yet, but okay, I'll come back to that later on when we're going to see which are the let's say the brands that could potentially come in and the ones that have come out. So here I'm just showing you the top 50 to top 100. I mean, I will not go through all of them. You're gonna see that some traditional brands have lost positions and other ones have been growing. What you can see obviously here is that you're gonna see some companies that are represented by multiple brands. So I mean, you can always pause the video, or I would recommend you that you download the Interbrand report. It's a very interesting report to read as well. So in terms of fastest risers, so I was surprised to see GE growing by 12%. Spotify does not surprise me. Google does not surprise me. You see that Google and YouTube are both present, despite the fact that they are being challenged and the Google search engine is being challenged by ChatGPT. So Interbrand considers that they are still strong. And then you have other brands. So Ferrari has been growing strong with 21%, but they are still, let's say, only ranked at position 62, but they are growing fast in terms of, let's say, brand perception by customers and consumers and the market in general. So I will not go into all of them. You can read it for yourself. New entrants, so we have seen Nvidia, but we have also Pandora, who joined the top 100 at rank 91, Range Rover that has joined the top 100, and also Air Jordan, which is actually a brand from Nike. So Nike is there with what is called the swoosh, and then you have Air Jordan as well, which is a brand of Nike Corporation. You have two re-entrants, which are Uber and LG. So as said, one of the companies that I was expecting to integrate was in fact ChatGPT, which has not been integrated. And well, I mean, you can always discuss which of those companies you still believe. I mean, you have maybe doubts about them. I still have doubts, for example, about HP, why they are still in the top 100 and actually the brand also growing. I believe that the other brands, and I would believe, I mean, that typically like ChatGPT versus Hewlett Packard Enterprise, that ChatGPT has a much more stronger brand presence, in fact, versus, for example, position number 2. But okay, that's my opinion as an investor as well. Right. Speaking about investment, so we're going to speak about financial performance. So what was interesting in the Interbrand report 2024, so that came out 2 days ago, is that they have been providing this graph that I found very interesting, where they actually kind of calculated what is the performance of the top 100 brands over the years, over the last 25 years, versus a market average. And some people will consider the market average to be the S&P 500. Other people will consider that a good market average as the MSCI World Index, which is even more diversified geographically than the S&P 500, which is of course very US concentrated. What is interesting to see, I mean, of course, you see that even the best global brands, they follow the fluctuations of markets in general, despite being stronger in terms of brand presence versus other companies that are not part of the top 100. So you see, for example, COVID period, you see that everybody came down actually. This is where you see that Mr. Market is emotional. But at the very end of the day, they have been outperforming actually the S&P 500 and the MSCI World Index by a mile, I would say. And this is one of the reasons I will come to this again in the conclusion, that I try, when I have the opportunity to buy those strong brands at a cheap price, that I like to buy them actually and add them to my portfolio. So strategic perspective, I mean, so not only is it about looking at the financial performance, but one thing, and it was very interesting to see this also appearing in the Interbrand 2024 report, and I don't want to make now a strategy course here, but I mean, for those who are interested in strategy, you know this corporate life cycle, which is also called the S-curve of corporate growth. And typically you have companies that start as a monoproduct company, so a single product. And when I say product, it includes services as well. So they go through a launch phase, growth phase, then they become a high growth, they become mature, and then there is a decline phase. And at a certain point in time, they have what is called a strategic inflection point, where if they are lucky, they go for a renewal phase, like Microsoft selling software to becoming a cloud computing provider. So they clearly had this S-curve, or they're going to decline. And sometimes the decline actually ends up in a merger and acquisition. So that's part of a potential exit strategy. And you can think about Yahoo, for example, being acquired, or was it by AT&T, if I remember well. So, and of course, one of the things that management has to look into to de-risk the business model, and I will bring this back to the brand conversation, is at a certain moment in time when the first product goes through the launch phase and grows very fast, becomes a star service, and then it becomes a cash cow, and suddenly starts to decline. Of course, you hope that the company has in its products portfolio a second or third or fourth product that will actually keep up this, the growth of the company. And look at Netflix. This is when they actually had the DVD renting model that was their cash cow, they already had launched the platform, for example. And now today the DVD renting model, of course, has totally declined at Netflix, and is basically themselves being a content producer that is actually also keeping the growth of Netflix. So this is from a strategic perspective. Why am I speaking about this in the context of brands? Because something that has happened, and coming back to the slide that was mentioned earlier, is that over the last 25 years, Interbrand could observe 185 brands in the top 100, and 85 have disappeared. And one thing also when I teach this to my students, which people do not always realize, is that the average company lifespan, I'm taking here a statistic related to the S&P 500, has been actually declining. In 1920, it was 67 years. So a company that was listed on the S&P 500 would actually survive, in average, 67 years, while now it's actually only surviving 25 years. And a potential merger and acquisition as an exit strategy will, of course, bring this amount of years down, in fact. The reason why this is happening, and this is one of the slides that I'm teaching at university as well, is that, and those are public data points, so you go on our worldindata.org, and actually when you take, and some people actually call GPT general purpose technologies, when you take general purpose technologies like also running water, a car, electricity, internet, well, what has changed? So when you look at the graph on the left-hand side versus the graph on the right-hand side, is that what has changed is clearly the speed of adoption. So the speed of adoption of let's say technologies and how they penetrate a population like the US population, it took previously maybe 50 years to reach 50% and above 50% penetration of a technology in a market like the US. Now it actually takes 5 years in average. And when you think about ChatGPT, within 2 months' time, OpenAI had 100 million active users. So the adoption curves of new technologies are actually vertical now. So companies have less time. That's something I always try to remind when I speak specifically about the S-curve of corporate growth or this corporate life cycle, that the amount of time that a company has to adapt and that management has to adapt is actually shrinking compared to maybe 50 years ago and 100 years ago. And what is interesting is actually that, bringing this back to the brand conversation, is that Interbrand is mentioning this as well. So you have here a quote from a Columbia Business School professor which says exactly the same, is that now, today, I mean, what is called information asymmetry no longer exists. People are aware of everything related to company. Companies become much more transparent. And now companies, compared to how it was 20 years ago, they can no longer, let's say, just dictate what they communicate and what they actually don't want to share with users. But users through social media are absolutely aware of what is happening with the brand. And this can actually even make a bad buzz on social media. So what Interbrand is actually saying, and when we think strategically about, let's say, competitive advantages, is that, in fact, one of the only competitive advantages that remains for companies is the strength of the brand. And that's something that cannot be replicated, because a product can be replicated, right? I mean, when ChatGPT was launched by OpenAI, anybody can copy ChatGPT if you have the compute power for doing this, right? If Coca-Cola launches a new product, Pepsi and other competitors can copy the product more or less, and the taste and the flavors will be very, very close, if not 100% the same. So what makes the difference afterwards is the brand. And the brand, and this is what I wanted to insist, that the brand is actually, according to Interbrand as well, and I'm a strong believer, and that is one of the very strong differentiators that a company has and has to protect. And it's very difficult to replicate for a competitor the strength of the brand, which allows a company actually to charge premium prices or to have high switching costs, because people don't want to move from one brand to an unknown brand. But today what has changed is that, as I was showing here, even, I mean, if the company is doing some stupid things, actually the people and the customers and the consumers will become very, very rapidly aware. So this will even put more pressure on the corporate life cycle of companies, even of companies that are part of the top 100. So why are we insisting on this? And actually to help our investors, to help you as our users of VinGPT, to help me, because I'm using VinGPT for my investment decision as well. We actually fuel VinGPT with those brand valuation elements, and we have 10 years of data. We're going to now add the 2024 data into it, that you can, when you look at making or at your investment process for company, that you not only look at the fundamental ratios, that you not only look at, let's say, the intrinsic value, but that you have other elements like net promoter scores, employee net promoter scores, but also brand valuation, how the brand is evolving over time. And you can look, for example, at one of the last videos about L'Oreal where I'm showing over the last 10 years actually how the brand has been evolving. So this is a prompt. Typically you can ask Vinj who are the top 10 brands, and you're going to see the top 10 brands being displayed by VinGPT as well. And now what we're going to do over the next couple, let's say, of days, we're going to add the 2024 updated information into it. So we're going to have 11 years of brand information in VinGPT as well. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So as a conclusion, so first of all, I want to make sure that you have very updated information on the best global brands 2024. I remain a strong believer that strong brands should be part of an investment portfolio. And I mean, coming back to the performance, the market performance of strong brands versus S&P 500 and MSCI World Index, it appears that, I mean, that's, let's say, kind of conclusion is actually pretty accurate. And again, now I want to disclose I could have done this in the beginning, but I want to disclose that I do have Mercedes, Porsche in my portfolio. I do have LVMH and Kering, which are luxury groups with some brands represented here in the top 100. I do have Nestle as well, which is, I think, represented with 2 brands, which is Nestle and Nespresso. I do have Ambev as well, which are distributors for Budweiser, Corona, and other very, very well-known brands. brands, and I do have Nike, which is also present with 2 brands in the top 100. So just want to disclose that. So not all my portfolio is only on the top 100 brands, because I do have some brands that are maybe less attractive, like utilities and mining. But I'm a strong believer that having strong brands in a portfolio, and again, as always, it's not a recommendation for you to do what I am doing, but I'm just sharing very transparently how I manage my portfolio as well. So I hope that this was useful. Thanks for your attention. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go on VinGPT.com, and thanks for all the users that we have so far over the last couple of months on VinGPT, and we will continue developing VinGPT to help us and help you in your investment journey. With that, thanks for your attention, and talk to you in the next one.